on that. And based on his assessment, and he's great. I mean, the gentleman saves us an enormous amount of money here in the district as far as safety things go, is the best bet would be to purchase or help purchase an ATV, a side-by-side or a golf cart that we could then take people down to the baseball field to go, so they're not parking down there, because we'd have to put up netting and various other things. But if you've ever seen the big golf cart that they've got at Cabell Midland that holds 6 or 8 people, I think maybe 6 people or something, that might be a good option for that area, because there's a hill and a road that comes down by the football field and the practice field down to the baseball and softball field.
One of the other concerns about people driving down in there to park to watch the game on a consistent basis is when they're playing baseball, there's other activities going on there, and there's, they may be out there practicing on a field, kids out running or walking where they're driving. So just want to be safe with whatever that decision we make is. Make sure we.
They're doing shot and discus in that.
Yes.
Yeah. You go right in between them.
Yes.
Well, since the safety guy recommended that, my question maybe not needed, but it seems like that could be a liability issue, transporting people in a
I did ask him that,
cart.
and he said there's obviously a risk of that, but he said it would still. He said this would still be a good option to be able to help our folks out to be able to attend that. But that was the exact question I had: is would that be a liability to us? And he said it would, but that's something we would still be able to do.
As long as you don't drive it through water.
But they put that down pretty far on their list, didn't they? Yeah, that was like number 12 out of 13.
Well, in their defense, I think they ranked it 12 out of 13 because they know it's something we have to address. And I'm not sure that would be on an LSIC's radar for an ADA compliance issue.
I probably just mislabeled that, really, of just access to the baseball field, based on the concerns that they've had. But it is initially we thought it may be an ADA issue.
Gotcha. Highline Elementary, windows in the library covered for safety.
Yes.
Just curious, like what windows? Do they face a street and they're trying to
They do.
keep people from looking in?
They do, and I talked to Ms. Herman about that. And what a lot of schools are requesting is sometimes you see these graphic designs. They don't have to be graphics, but like Huntington High has them, Cabell Midland has them on the window where you can see out from inside, but you almost have to be right up on the glass to see in. And they're just concerned about people looking in at students and different things like that, and having big, large windows. They aren't necessarily talking about bullet-resistant glass, but just coverings that can still let light in but limit the view.
Or even, I don't know, sometimes you might not want kids seeing what's going on out there.
I believe for them, it's more about being outside seeing in. Their concern.
Do we have a cost for Huntington Middle School, the roof and paint in the top there, the rotted wood?
I do not. I'm meeting with Dave Ferguson Friday morning at 8 o'clock, and he's going to work that up for us.
Okay.
What has been the policy in the past about playground equipment? Who pays for that? I was thinking I'd heard that PTAs did that. The school provided playground equipment.
I think traditionally that's how it worked. As we discussed building these new schools, I said, I can't imagine us building a new school and not having a playground. Mm-hmm. And so we went to, the solution was to come up with a per pupil allocation for the new schools. So the county would pay part of it, but also like Davis Creek, they had a lot of money saved for theirs. Milton, I think, came up with money to put into theirs, and I'm pretty sure that Meadows has money to put into theirs as well. So it's a combination, since it's a whole new. Now, as far as current playgrounds, you know, I know that Village just installed some new pieces in their playground, and I think they raised the money for that. So I guess it's kind of a, and I think we did help Southside.
You did help Southside. They had a significant amount of money from a grant, as well as obviously Davis Creek. The ones that were approved last year, and it was on a per pupil allocation. I can't remember. Internet's down. I'm not connected to the hotspot right now. Oh, was it back up? Okay.
Internet's working.
But there was a per pupil allocation that we did for that, and that's the way we allocated it for Milton Middle and Southside, and as well as Davis Creek, and then Meadows has, I believe, around 97,500 allocated for them for that.
And that is the per pupil allocation.
That based on their enrollment. I mean, maybe it's. I'm not going to throw out a number. I don't want to guess, but
Right.
I just can't pull it up right now.
Yes, the new school.
So I don't know, to answer your question, I don't know that there's necessarily a policy for that. I think there's been a practice in the past, and I can't really speak to that at this time, because I was middle school director and didn't really deal with the playgrounds much prior to that.
Nichols Elementary window intercom, is that in their man trap? They just need a.
That is in their man trap. So we actually were a design committee meeting in Ona Elementary, and sometimes they just put the cutout holes in those bullet-resistant glass in these new man traps, in a lot of these man traps. It's not electronic, and unless you're right up on one of those speak holes, they can't hear very well.
Right.
And I've seen that for myself. I know some of the schools have electronic ones and some do not. Like Huntington High School does. I believe Cabell Midland. I'm not sure if they do. I know Huntington High does, but they're just asking to be able to amplify that so they can hear better, because not everybody's going to stand right at that speak hole.
Right. Salt Rock, the parking lot repaved, I know we allocate money every year for paving. Is that something that could be included in that?
Yes, sir. That, and if you wanted to do Nichols as well, yes, we could include it in the budget for next year.
Okay.
But also in that budget, I think it's important to know that we also have a lot of, it's not always just for replacing or new. A lot of it is just fixing potholes and different things like that. So
Sure.
it's a pretty large bid that goes out for that, for the paving projects.
On down to Village. They're also asking for some window film. Is that for windows in the front of the school there as you drive along Pirate Drive? Or I should have asked this the other day when I was there.
Where are you, Village of
Vil-
Barnesville? I don't see that.
Mhm.
Oh, you're standing on another thing.
I'm trying to find that one.
Not on this rank.
It's not on the ranked one. Okay, well.
Is it on Village of Barbersville's?
It was on the one we got, the one I printed from last time, it was right above.
Oh, I can tell you why. I've actually got an email from Ms. Kidder saying I think that was something that they already purchased. I have to go back and look at the email, but she said take it off. When I sent the rankings out, we did have 2 or 3 that you might notice. They said they went ahead and took care of it at their school where it's no longer needed, and there was a few minor changes to this. I should have pointed that out before we started.
That's fine. Also, so there were a couple of items throughout here for outdoor classroom spaces or outdoor learning spaces, like $25,000, $35,000. And then you get to the one for Village, and I'll make sure that didn't change here. For $250,000. Is that a typo or is that $250,000?
Mr. Webb, I'm gonna let you, I think you kind of took care of those. I'll let you address that.
Outdoor classroom.
I will tell you the designs of the outdoor classrooms, the initial ones were my design, and how they were designed that you could incorporate an entire first grade class setting out there at one time. So if you had a large group setting, you had enough space to do that. Barnesville, or Village of Barnesville, is a large elementary school. So looking at it and going back to the design of it, it would take like, sorry for the speech, I've had some issues, 5 independent areas to cover the number of classes that they have in first grade or second, third, fourth, and the fifth. So that's just a rough estimate on that. You know, it really the concrete now is close to $200 a yard, minimum of 6 yard order. Used to, it was $130 a yard, and we could get, if we needed 1 yard, we could get just 1 yard. But now they're requiring us to buy 6 yards, and that's all the local concrete companies. So that it's just designed to take 1 class out, or 2 classes go out, or as an entire first grade or second grade go out at one time. So we may be a little high on that. But I'd say by the time we threw furniture and everything in, we're pretty close to $250,000.
Well, it's probably pretty close because we actually did a design for Village of Barnesville when we were putting outdoor classrooms in. Mr. Webb actually had one designed for there, and it's probably based on that design, would be my guess.
Yeah, they turned it down the first time.
So and they have space for it. They have a gazebo, I think, outside now.
Yeah, it would be outside of the cafeteria, just right out through the back doors and everything, where we were looking at putting the space.
Yeah.
So it's kind of enclosed, you know, you got the building that kind of protects the kids and everything. But I do know how that design was. I had it designed out to like, it was like the Olympic rings, there's 3 and 2, and they all came together.
It would be pretty close to that, to put that design in there at this point.
Okay. I did have a question about the glass, the man-trap glass in the office, but I was able to ask when I was there the other day. It will be a glass and a door on the one side. That was my question. Are we going to completely enclose it?
Yeah, and that's one of the few schools that does not have a complete
Right.
enclosure. We did enclose at Milton Pre-K here recently. We did that to where there's a little bit of a, it's not bullet-resistant glass, but there is glass between the reception or the secretary and visitors coming in, and we'd be doing something similar to that.
Yeah. I think that especially prudent after the South Point incident. Okay. Do you know if they have AED machines for the career center? Do they have AED? They just need more.
They do have some at the school, and I think they're asking for additional ones for the new building, where it is a much larger larger building.
Is that the same answer for the?
But we can take those with us too, and then we just have to purchase some additional ones.
Sure.
And the other thing with that, and with those AEDs and stop the bleed kits, which they're I mean, we need them in case there is an emergency, but they, Nazi may be able to give a lifespan of those things. They don't last forever. You've got to refresh them, they expire.
AEDs are about 5 years.
And the stop bleed, I'm not sure what the expiration date is on that, but Mr. Stewart does a great job of going around and ensuring that they're all
It's just the
updated.
the individual components in the stop the bleed kits expire like all medical supplies do. So they have 2 or 3 year lifespan. The quick clot. But I think they're pretty conservative at $2,000 for 3 AEDs. They're about 2,000 apiece.
And that very well may be a typo. So I think you're right on that. Thank you for pointing that out.
The lack of a math problem, it needed to be multiplied.
You can, cheap involved, but otherwise they're pretty pricey.
Could you give us some of yours?
I don't have any.
Oh, okay.
But I know, like, Park Board and the Marshall Health Foundation's buying a slew of them to place throughout the communities, and they were able to get them down into the 1,500 range, maybe
Oh.
1,300 range, but they're buying like 50 of them, so.
And they buy a couple more and we'll buy them off of them.
Yeah.
So is there anything, Mr. Hartsey, I don't know if you want me to go this direction, is there any, I don't want to say any kind of a summary, anything that really sticks out that you believe that would be a priority?
Well, I think, I don't know that I need to go there. I think what we need to do is actually get an idea of what the board members feel like would be a priority, so Mr. Rockin can work on our budget. I don't know that we can determine that here tonight at the end of the day, because I think when we leave here today, you're gonna have so much information that you're gonna need to actually go through and think about. You may need to contact some schools. You may need to contact us and ask some clarifying questions. But at some point in the very near future, Mr. Roggen's gonna need an idea of how to budget for next year, based on our staffing, based on the things that are increasing. We know PEI is gonna increase next year. So those things we know are gonna change. He's got to work on how much they're going to change and at the funding portion of what the priorities are. And I know the schools have ranked them 1 through whatever. At some point, we're going to need to know what's the highest need on this list that we need to address. So Mr. Rockin can make sure that we can budget for that first, if that's what we have money for. And as we can go down that list to hit things, and at some point, if we can't get them, then we know if nothing changes the following year, that's where we would start again. Of course, things change and things break and needs to become more apparent. Example of an outdoor outdoor classroom. While that was offered at one point, it wasn't a need at that time. Village of Barnesville's moved into the direction they feel like that would be a need for their school now. So that's why we see it there now, and that's why things change. So
This might be inappropriate, something we couldn't do, maybe the other board members wouldn't be interested at all, but came to my mind, I would like to visit these schools, and I think it might be more convenient for them if a few of us,
turn your mic on. We're
if a few of
recording,
us
so we
went.
can say
Okay, so I'm talking about, I would like to visit these schools, and I don't mind going on my own at all. I have visited them, but not for this purpose, for other reasons. But if a few people wanted to go with me, and maybe we set a schedule and contacted the schools and said, we're going to be, is that appropriate for several? It's not, you can't,
You could take one person with you.
just 2
Can you
people.
not take a field trip to view?
You can't if you announce it.
Yes, like we did that previously, I think during the CEFP, but we announced it. The public was welcome to come if they wanted to come as well, because anytime there's more than 3 of you all, that's considered a meeting. It has to
3
be
or more.
publicly, yeah.
We publicly announced we
Yes.
were going out looking at
Yes.
possible sites
Mhm.
for the new schools.
And they were welcome to come, public's welcome to join as well
Yeah,
when we
we
do
had
that.
some folks show up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that would be doable,
I just don't,
I think.
well,
And would we need to do that for finance, for Mr. Treasurer's, I never can remember your last name.
Rotkin.
I'm the best.
Mr. Drew.
Horrible. Drew, I do know Drew. For Drew's benefit, do we need to have these decisions made before the end of the school year?
We need them before, like within the next week or week and a half. And the reason, and that's one of the reasons we started talking about this, a week or 2 ago, and we've talked about it a little bit up to now, but he works on a budget that we need to have presented and approved in May for next year. And typically, we do that towards the beginning of May. Our personnel hearings and meetings will not be until week after next on Monday. So he's already a little bit late, depending on how those turn out. And so we might be running past the first meeting in May before he can present a budget to the board for approval, but it has to be done in May.
Okay. So these visits need
I
to
don't
be
want to
done
speak for Mr.
immediately.
Rogan. You probably need them within the next 2 weeks, week and a half.
Ideally, if we want to incorporate it in that budget.
Mr. Boggs, I have one more question about.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, one thing that we might be able to do, if that's something we would choose to, is if you look at these, they say, all right, Mr. Ogden, we might need to say that we need a 1.5 or $2 million to start addressing these, that he could work into a budget, and then you can start, and that way it wouldn't rush you into prioritizing them, but there would be a finite amount of money to address the needs. Would that make sense? So he could sit off to the side and budget $2 million or $1 million for LSIC projects, and then we would need the board to prioritize those. And that would, if we set it aside, that wouldn't have to be done until, you know, we get to where we start working on them in the summertime.
You're not really thinking of $1 million for LSIC projects, right? I mean, you're thinking more, a whole lot more than that, right?
Let me ask one more question, and then I have something to say along those lines.
I mean, that doesn't even make a curtain, does it? I mean,
The radios at Milton Elementary, they need working radios for, they don't have any, it's just they're older or don't work
Yeah,
well?
they have, they're using the repeater off of the Milton Middle School. And we believe, Jason, I'll let you go ahead.
He's
I'll let you go ahead on this, because I think Keith actually was working on a fix for this.
This is a two-part problem. The repeater at Milton Middle School will serve them, but they have to change some of their radios out. The bigger problem right now is the Barker Ridge antenna, I believe, is still down, unless Mr. Abbas happens to know different. Last I heard, they were still in the repairing it, so we weren't getting our BOE channels that we could talk digitally across all the way down to here. But we are working on a way to reprogram their radio so they can reach us as needed.
Are you talking about on your radio system or the
The state radio system, the digital system.
there's Bertha Barker's on the state radio system?
I'm not started Barker's, excuse me, the other, the Milton antenna on the ridge.
At Parker Ridge?
Mm-hmm.
It's up.
Is it back up?
Well, I don't know that it was ever down, because that would have affected the whole communications.
Our contact at FNL said that it was down, at least for our channels,
Maybe
for us.
board radio system, that would
Yeah,
be,
because it piggybacks on the state side of things, that's what I was told. Okay. Yeah.
But there is a fix in pro.
We are aware of it, yes. How is that? That's probably the best answer I can give to you right now.
All right. You know, as I looked over these and thought about previous budget meetings that we've had in the years that I've been on, you know, we've had to take money from reserves to balance the budget. Did that last year. I don't know if that's going to be the case this year for sure, but I would be shocked if it weren't. Just the way things are going with funding and, you know, all the things that we have to try to prioritize. So as I looked at this wants list, I tried to look at it through the lens of, is this something that we need to have or it would be nice to have? And just try to prioritize, you know, what could we do without, what could last another year? Some things were already listed on here as, you know, not urgent. Some things were listed as not feasible. So I mean, I automatically took those things off of my list. Some things that were out of our control, but I pared it down to a list of, and this changed a little bit today because I had a few things that I had ranked kind of, I guess I did like a 3-tier kind of ranking, I guess. Actually, probably 4-tier ranking. Things that we probably need to go ahead and do, things that would be next. The next level is things I wasn't sure, I didn't think we need to do them now, but And then there are things that we just aren't going to do because they're not feasible, or, we can put those off because they weren't urgent. So I narrowed it down to about a $2 million budget of things that I think we need to do. Now, are we going to have 2 million to do those things? I don't know. I guess we'll figure that out in the next little bit, but, so.
So I would remind the board, if you remember back to our discussions on staffing and those things that are coming up, and just being transparent. I've tried to do that all along. We have, as I showed over the last 10 years or so, we've lost about a little over 2,000 kids. And with our funding, those 2,000 kids, if they were here today, would represent like another $16.4 million in funding next year that we won't have. But from the employee side of things, we had more employees than we had 10 years ago. And so with those two things, that it's a difficult position to have to try to get to where we're balanced budget in 1 year, and knowing how far out of whack we are at the moment. And so the plan was to try to get us there in about 3 years. So as far as like dollar amount or anything like that, I'm not sure that we could give you that today. But that's something that we can certainly present. And each thing that we do, there's a cost to it. And I think that one thing that can't be overlooked is if we could total the amount of money that some of our employees are saving for us. And I know that sounds crazy, but our maintenance department does a lot of work for us, and it may cost us overtime to get them to do it, but the quality work is fantastic, and it prevents us from having to go hire vendors and do it that way. It gets done better. It gets done by our people. And some of these projects, you'll even notice that Mr. Webb has on here the cost for the maintenance department doing it. You'll notice it's much more feasible and able to be done. And so I greatly appreciate that, and our people looking for fixes for some of these. But unfortunately, some of these we just can't tackle. We can't do something that's $2 million and do it in-house. And so some of those things are just problems we're going to have to try to figure out a way around. And some of them are things we have to save for. I mean, to tackle a $2 million project would be something we probably need to save a few years for. But we can't save if we're spending more than we're bringing in. And so I think that's my concern. I don't know how to fix that. That's just where we're at. And I know all of these pieces eventually, hopefully by the end of this month or the beginning of January, will kind of fit together. And all the things we've discussed over the last few months will make sense because they all impact each other. And so we will have to use some carryover funds just to survive next year if we don't do anything on this list. We'll use several $1 million of carryover just to balance the budget. And I think we did last year. And on top of that, we sold, it's my understanding, quite a few, maybe $1.8, $2 million worth of Apple products were sold to help the budget as well. On top of carrying over or using $3 or so million from the budget last year, from the reserves. And so I wouldn't expect it to be much different than that before we start on the projects this year.
I do want to just kind of give a caution that these are estimates. And when you get into doing these projects, it can sometimes be more. So fencing, for example, if you're looking at a 6-foot fence that's PVC coated, black fence that we typically been putting in, right now it's running about $45 a foot, linear foot. When I got the estimates, when I talked to the vendor, and I said, what do you think it's going to be in 6 months? And they said, based on, inflation and different things like that, they said, I would plan on $60 a linear foot. So these things, it's like hitting a moving target sometimes with these things. So what's accurate or semi-accurate today, maybe more, could be less. And an example, one of the things that we just did is we put out a bid for a storage building at Milton Middle and Meadows Elementary. We put both of those out to bid, and they came back way over what we had budgeted, so we had to scale it back and put it out to bid again, just one of them, and that's actually on next week's board agenda for approval. So sometimes we have to do that.
Josh, would
Yeah.
you want to share what you came up with?
Absolutely. As I was sitting here thinking about that, the Cabell Midland Foundation issue, which we said is in the budget, this current year's budget, was included in my 2.1 million. So you take 2.1 million, take $1.5 million off of that, and the things that I've thought were the most important are what, a lot less than the 2 million originally said. So, and that being said, too, with the situation that Mr. Hardesty described, thinking about the budget years that I have experienced, only two, thinking about the outlook as far as our CEFP projects, our HVAC situations across the county. We really need to, in my opinion, tighten up as much as we can, because we need to prepare for some of this stuff that's going to come up. And like he said, we can't prepare if we're not able to save any money, and we're constantly pulling from our reserve fund. So with that said, I'll definitely share. These are the my green. I highlighted green is green for go. Let's do these. The foundation issue at Cabell Midland was on there, but that's already budgeted for. The lighting and sound system for the auditorium at Cabell Midland, and they ranked that number 1.
Mr. Polly,
Yes, sir.
speaking of that, we do have a fix in place right now that's temporary, so that fix is going to have to actually be that classroom next year, because our fix only goes through the remainder of the school year.
Say that one more time for me.
Okay, so right now we have a fix for
Yeah,
that
temporary fix.
in place, but it's only temporary. So I'm glad they ranked that number 1, because that fix will be gone at the end of the school year because of how we're utilizing someone else's resources for that.
The additional 10 cameras at Huntington High School are ranked as a go, and that was their number 2 item. Meadows Elementary Playground, the per pupil allocation, and they ranked that number 1. I had put the working radios for the school at Milton Elementary, but it seems like maybe there's something already in the works to achieve that. That being said, they ranked a gate to close off the back road as their number 1, I believe. So I would move that one to a go for me.
And I can kind of explain that. That's when the kids are out playing and receiving trucks are going in. They can, because they've got a fenced-in area, but they also have a field area over there that they want to be able to make sure no trucks come through and a kid runs out playing kickball or something.
Yeah. So I would move that to my green. Milton Elementary. And then Village of Barbersville, the man-trap glass in the office to have a barrier between the office staff and the people who come into the school. And then I should have asked this question about the Career Center. They have on there a radio repeater for $8,000. Is that for the new facility, or is that something?
That is for the new facility.
So I did the radio repeater, and I didn't look at how they ranked these, but I think I think I have their top 3, which was radio repeater, the AED machines, the stop the bleed kits. All 3.
And I will say this, like, even though they put in backpack sweeper, that's something that we can really cover in our I mean, that's a very small amount that we can cover in our, as far as maintenance costs
Right,
and different
just
things
the
like
money
that. That we just have.
right, we already budget.
What about the locks at Altizer? I mean, that seems like, would that be something we could squeeze in on the green, you think?
Yeah, probably so.
That seems like that could be an issue maybe with.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Are
mean,
a lot of schools like that, or are they one of the only ones, or?
Well, I think we have, most of them have a master key floating around, but we have some new additions there, and it was done by two different vendors as well, and so two different bid specs. So, yeah, you're right, it's not a lot of money, but everything counts when you start adding up. But one thing that's in there I just wanted to point out too, and we can clarify with Mr. Roggan, you mentioned Meadows Elementary Playground Assistance. I believe that may be in our current budget this year as well.
Oh, it is? Drew?
that's good.
We have more money to spend.
No, we can't spend any more.
And again, these were the ones that they put on there, so we left them on because
Right.
that was still a
I just
request.
know that because we weren't sure exactly when that playground or that school would be ready, that I think there was some anticipation in our current budget to get some of these completed.
Salt Rock is looking at me with a $3 million HVAC replacement. Is that pretty close to needing replaced?
Oh, yes.
It's pretty close. Oh, is it needing replaced?
Pretty close to needing replaced?
We've already put in, we actually applied for a school building authority grant that we did not get for that unit at the last needs project. So it needs replaced. We have a fix that we can limp along with, and that fix actually is, each classroom has window units in them for heat and AC, because it just doesn't work. But one of the things that we have, that company that we hired to analyze our system, I think their quote on that was a little over $4 million to replace it. So it's went up that much already. However, I think he's got some power issues. He's got some meters out there, and he feels like some of the issues are power meters. But unfortunately, that unit, when they put those in, I think there's VRP at Explore Academy, Salt Rock, the current Career Center. Is that the only three we have? Maybe I think
Salt
that
Rock,
might be
yeah.
Salt Rock, but those were kind of new when those buildings were done, and those were the ones done in that little pocket of time. They're all three different brands. And that they feel like that was at the end of its lifespan, and it's only about 12 years old. So that's unfortunate, but we're not able to use it at all right now. I think it's working in maybe a couple areas, but almost all the classrooms have heat and AC in them, and we have to run some dehumidifiers through the building as well. So
If my quick math is correct, that's about $601,000 of projects.
That's your green, right?
That's, yeah, what I called green, and I did change Altizer.
And another good thing is we have a locksmith that can do.
yes.
I mean, that's with our own locksmith doing
Right.
that.
And on the second tier of projects, what I have that would come next totaled a little over $1.2 million, plus whatever the Huntington Middle School project that he's meeting someone about Friday. We don't have a cost on that yet, so, but I know we've talked about that since I've been on the board, I think, about the deteriorating wood and stuff at Huntington Middle. So, I don't know if you want my second tier.
I've been scared into frugality. I don't even know if I want to hear it.
No, I mean, I feel.
Yeah, I think you should tell us.
I feel like we've just really have a lot of And when you see these costs on things,
One of the things we haven't, excuse me, one of the things we haven't gone to yet is a sheet that starts talking about HVAC issues and needs. And we have two high schools that are very large, and to build those high schools today, we see we see elementaries go in for 18, 20, 24 million dollars. That high school today would be somewhere around 140, 150 million dollars to build Cabell Midland or Huntington High School, not both, just one of them. And so to replace the HVAC system in those, we have a quote in there. Cabell Midland, I believe, is a little bit over $27 million for eight. That's, and Huntington High School, I believe, was around 25 or 26 million.
That is accurate.
And they're a year apart in age, so.
And then we have roofs.
And you know, really, roofs are very expensive, but when you think about the cost of HVAC, they're, I can't say they're a bargain, they're still expensive, but it's hard to fathom the cost of things when you think about putting a roof on your house and it's a few $1,000s, and you buy a new unit for your house for HVAC and you spend $8,000 on it, and it's hard to fathom just ranking that up to a commercial product for a building that's 150,000+ square feet. It's just hard. It's hard to wrap your head around the fact that it's not $8,000. It's $27 million.
Like the garbage bill.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. $153,000 for garbage.
This situation at Ona Elementary listed as their number one. Security alarm does not work. Is there some Band-Aid that could be placed over that? Something that could be,
just a new building.
Do you want, go ahead, Jason.
and we're going to build a
Mm-hmm.
new elementary, but.
Yeah, that's why I
we're
think
gonna
you
be
said a
building
Band-Aid.
this
We need a
building next-
Band-Aid, not a $15,000 Band-Aid, because we got a.
Yeah, and by the way, that is about a $15,000 Band-Aid for Ona Elementary. The system is just dead. It needs to be completely redone, so we've kind of pushed it to the back burner. We kind of keep it alive when we can, but there's a new school coming. But it is about a $15,000 to $18,000 proposition. Yeah. Yeah, and yes, and that is just for the intrusion alarm when no one's on the premises.
The possibility of something less expensive.
You would compromise someplace, either with coverage or,
And I hate to bring this up, but I say this word,
No.
tariffs.
yeah, they're on my mind too.
Assuming that everything here is going to be manufactured in the United States.
Well, if not, you can add 25% to it.
That's my point. We're into this stuff. I mean, I hate to bring the word up, but, that needs to be considered.
I just noticed too on the new list, Ona, we have that property acquisition.
Yes, I'm glad you pointed that out, because we just did receive the appraisal value of that. Now, that is the appraisal value of, there is a small section at the back of the Ona property that we would need for an access road. And that is the appraised value. However, we would only need a section of that. So we've got to really kind of take that and then parse out exactly how much that would be. But that would be to buy that small section there, or I say that's the appraised value of that small section.
It's the appraised value of the section, but we don't need the whole section. Is that what you said?
We could cut off a little, but not much.
We need most of it because our property actually runs along the side of the fire department at Ona onto House Mill. And so the thought was when we build, we would have the buses come in from Route 60, the parents come in from House Mill to keep the traffic off Route 60. And so if you're familiar with that, from the fire department towards Route 60, there's a very small strip of land there all the way to House Mill that the county already owns. It's just not big enough to put a road in. The lot right beside it is vacant. There used to be a house that sat there. It's gone. vacant lot that goes with the person who lives there. And they are willing to sell that to us. We had it appraised. We don't need it all, but we need a large chunk of it to have a entrance in and out. And so it really, honestly, appraised for less than what I thought it would because of the size of it, because it runs off of Howe's Mill all the way down to a portion of where our property starts, down to a little creek area in the back.
And I put that in there, we just got it last night, we just got that documentation, so I just kind of put it in there just as a placeholder, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Because if we only purchase part of it, there's also going to be a cost in the survey process to survey out part of the land as well.
Seems like it would make more sense just to have the whole thing.
I think the landowner doesn't really want to sell it all, if that makes sense. I think the landowner wants to keep a portion of it. Not all of it. He wants us to use what we need, but I think there's a portion of it that he'd like to keep. And so I think we can get a discount on it in order to cover the cost of the surveying that portion out.
I think their concern is it comes up very close to their
Yes.
actual house.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
And that's right behind the fire department. That
correct.
land.
Yeah, right beside.
It's right beside the fire department. We own all the way to the fire department now, and a little bit behind it towards Route 60, but not enough to put 2 lanes of traffic in.
That's if you're looking at the fire department on the left side.
Correct.
So we need to add that. I mean, we need that. 658,000.
What'd you say, 658?
Yeah. If we add that 50, that was 57,000, which, give or take on that, I guess.
I think there's some merit to be said, and I know Drew's down there cringing, but I think there's some merit to be said. Ms. Smalley brought up the ONA elementary security alarm. I think there's some merit that we need to have that in a working order for our students for the next 2 years. I know that wasn't on your, and I understand why we're getting ready to build a new school. I know the one in Highland, I don't think the old Highland building, I don't think it works right now either. And so we couldn't take it. Mr. Moore, go ahead and check on him. Go check on him.
I'll be right back.
So I think there's something to be said to explore the fix for that, and we'll work with Jason to do that.
Sure.
That's a dog, isn't it?
Pardon?
That's a dog, isn't it?
That's the dog, yes.
663,000. No, 600. What was that? 658? $673.
Why can't that be part of the bond issue, be paid for with that money?
Because this is for, not for the news.
With the bond. It was an SBA project, but for the land, is that what you mean?
Yes.
We're already putting some money with that. I think $1 million with that to complete the school. So there's no SBA money to put with it. It's while they gave us 17, I think it was 16.9 million. I think we were putting $1 million with it to cover the cost of the school.
Okay.
And so it would come from us anyway. Right.
I mean, they funded it, what, almost 90% or?
90 plus percent, yeah.
Which is.
Which is a nice gift, yes.
Well, do we,
How about we leave it this? I know you did that. If any other board member wants to discuss anything further, just reach out to us. And maybe it's something we can discuss at a future meeting. I'll place on there as as a discussion item if anyone has some from the list that we want to discuss further.
And I take no offense, if you say this number doesn't look right, please reach out, just like with the AEDs. I was thinking I just didn't multiply it, so just let me know and I can double check it, because there's a lot of numbers and information on this sheet.
Well, not even have gotten to the rest of the list with the HVACs and stuff. I would be hesitant to even move to the yellow part of your
Me too.
list. I think we stop with the green and move on to the next session.
Well, and that being said, that like I don't want to. I want everybody to feel free to agree or disagree, or maybe there's something else that stands out that we need to add as a priority. Let's call it a priority one. I don't. But that's just, as I look through it, that's what I came up with. But we can certainly. And if there's something on there that you feel like you'd like to go see at the school, yeah, absolutely, to get a better idea. I actually did that. I was at Village, I was at Village as dad, and just happened to ask about their glass there. So.
If you do want to visit, I'll be more than happy to meet you there, or you can go on your own. Either way, that's perfectly fine. Did you want me to move on to the?
Yeah, I think so. We're just move on.
All right. Yes, sir. So Drew's going to go ahead and hand this one out as well. And what he's handing you is just the review of annual recurring items. These are the things such as trash, filters, salt mulch inspections. And you've seen this. I don't know that we need to spend any more time on it. I just want to have these numbers in front of you because it is important, because it's things we have to do every single year. And there's a substantial cost to this, even though they're things we have to do. So I just wanted to just provide that to you, and if you have any questions about that, please let me know.
I think it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway, just because I'm certain that we do everything we can to keep these costs, or I hope that we do everything we can to keep these costs down as much as possible, even though I know that there are some fixed costs or.
We're going to follow all the purchasing laws when we do this, but we have to put many of these things out for bid because they're over a particular threshold, and we sometimes do that, and we're still getting quotes even if it doesn't meet a particular threshold to make sure we're getting the best deal on these things. And then sometimes in some contracts, it's offered you can do a no-cost extension, which is advantageous, say, for instance, for the trash, things like that, because rarely do things price go down.
Right.
And if you can get a no-cost extension and not have to put it out to bid and it's in that contract, then we're advantageous to go ahead and move forward with that rather than putting it back out to bid.
Right.
Because you may end up, instead of spending $650,000, you may spend $750,000.
Sure.
So, all right, I'll move on to the next slide. Then this is the HVAC controls and estimates. And Drew, if you want to go ahead and pass out that one right there. Yes, sir. And I'm sorry I'm throwing out, this one does have, I don't want to say shock value to it, but it is very hard to look at those numbers. So while he's passing that out, I'm going to give you a little bit of a context on the HVAC again, and I really want to bring our maintenance department down here to a board meeting sometime and really just recognize them and what they do for us and how much money they do save us and how they keep the schools going and working all hours of the day and night for that. But what we're running into right now are the controls. And you're going to see a slide. I'm going to actually kind of skip ahead in one slide here for a second. Ahead one slide of what you're looking at right here. This was actually done by one of our technicians. There's just Rusty is one of our techs in technology. However, he used to work in HVAC. And if you know a whole, I only have limited knowledge on HVAC, but HVAC works just as close with Mr. Jackson as they do with Mr. Webb, because it's all interfaced with technology. And Rusty, he was a great liaison because he knows both ends of the spectrum, the technology side and the tech side on the HVAC. But what we have is we've got, and we don't really need to dig into this, it's not going to mean a whole lot unless you're an HVAC person, but there are several different controls and systems that we have around the district. And it's very difficult for our HVAC techs, because there's different logins, there's different overlays, and what it essentially runs down to is you've got one company runs this control system. It's almost like having a Ford, a Chevy, a Toyota, and a Nissan, but you've got to have different software to work on each and every single one of those. And if it's not talking, and there's not an overlay to where they can log in one place, it makes it very, very difficult, because they do a lot of management from their computer or phone for a lot of these systems about what the air temperatures are and different things like that. So what we're really have been working with Jason, and Pat and Rusty have been great working with the HVAC techs to really come up with a plan to where we can make it as user-friendly for our techs to where they can work on this and streamline it. We're now, Jason, do you think it's accurate to say we're about as far as we can go as a district on our own? And trying to make them consistent. And what our goal is, and what we'd like to do, but again, it costs money, is try to get into one or two systems as far as our controls go, to make it more manageable and streamline things. But we know it can't happen overnight. And this is what the company that Mr. Hardesty was talking about, Premier Energy Solutions, has really looking at the controls and then giving you some updated numbers as far as what HVAC cost in today dollars rather than 5 years ago. Because if you look at the CEFP, which you don't have this in front of you yet, but you will shortly, one example of this is HVAC upgrades for trying to look for, HVAC replacement back in 2020 was running 11.4 million, and today, if you look at the documents that Drew gave you, Huntington High is on the front page, and like Mr. Hardesty said, that's almost $28 million to replace the HVAC.
And there are two, if you look at those sheets, each one has two different ones. There's a miscellaneous cost. Depending on how we do these, depends on how much extra cost we have. For example, and these are just hypotheticals and nothing more, so if anyone's listening, don't think this is what we're doing. But if we were to go with something like our current energy contract to work on putting in HVACs in one of these schools, we could do some type of a performance contract where these energy savings would try to pay for the system over the course of 15 years. If you do that, you can do that in-house. You don't have to advertise. At the bottom, we're not advertising ourselves. We're actually advertising for bids and for proposals. And so a lot of those contingency, we don't really have, it's in there, but it's within the internal portion of that. And they take care of the design, that type thing, and you don't really need a clerk of those because they oversee the project. If we ask for an SBA grant to help with any of that, even if it's a major improvement project that gives $1 million towards something, then all of those things at the bottom are in play because they require those. And so, that's another $3 million. And while the overall portion, that's a very small piece of it, it's still an expense anytime you do something and you receive SBA funds, or if you blend any kind of federal funds with it, those all have to be advertised as well.
And with anything that's an SBA, you also have to do specific requirements in policy 6100 as far as testing and balancing. And Drew, I'm going blank on the other name. It's not only the testing and balancing, commissioning of the HVAC stuff. So there's additional steps you've got to take with any SBA project. But so the front page here is Huntington High School. I'm just going to let you all browse through this and see if you have any questions. If you look in the first page, you'll. But you've got Huntington High, Cabell, Midland, and these are for HVAC renovations. Then you go into the Career Center, Explorer Academy, Central City, and Salt Rock Elementary, which we said was, this estimate was a little bit higher, or was higher than the other one.
Now, is this for the current Career Center?
Yes.
It is, and that is, it's in need of being replaced.
Depending on what the board decides to do with that building, it would
That
need
was what I was
replaced.
getting at,
Right.
yeah.
And that determination hasn't been made. There were discussions back when we first started talking about the new facility, but there has been nothing decided on that one.
As our treasurer said, these aren't flashy things as far as HVAC. People really don't think about it until it goes down.
To replace each one of these systems would be almost $90 million for 5 schools. And the public and our employees would never see the first piece of any of it because it's not seen by the public. But yet, if it doesn't work or the roof leaks, you know it instantly and you're unhappy. So it's a difficult proposition to think about having to replace all these, but they are looming. And we've spent a lot of money on new construction, and rightfully so. I mean, I understand why we did, but we've got to make sure we're maintaining our buildings and have a plan for that going forward, because in another 20 years, those buildings we just opened are going to need these things as well.
And I had and as you all know, I had left the district for 5 years and worked all across the state. I'm not going to mention those districts, but good people in all of those districts, but those districts that do not take care of their facilities and they get condemned, you can just look on the news of those facilities and the financial issues because they did not set aside money and they did not plan for roofs, they did not plan for HVAC, they did not have money to be able to fix like what we're dealing with at Cabell Midland High School. And it can absolutely devastate the district if they do not have a long-term plan in place to be able to address those things.
Do we now have a time frame on how the expected use of the current systems that are there now? Like, how much longer can we get by at Huntington High?
We do not have an answer for that yet. They are still analyzing that. We pushed them to get a dollar amount for you all for this workshop. As far as like a replacement cost, they're still working on that. There's no cost. If you notice, he talked about the controls. They're also looking at what the cost would be to put the controls all in one system. And they're also analyzing to see if, as we put schools out for bid, which is something I think all of us felt like you couldn't do. You couldn't specify a particular product in a bid package. They're looking at the feasibility. Can we actually request what we want for ONA to fit in our long-term goals? So they're analyzing. But so no, right now I don't have that. To be honest with you, we're probably going to have to, because of the cost, that's something we're going to have to look at doing in phases. There's no way to financially take on $50+ million for HVAC at one time. It's just not feasible. And so we will work on some kind of and we do that for roofs now. If you'll, when we get to the roofing portion, you'll see that we break roofs out in certain sections of the building, and we address those in particular steps as well. So we're not doing the entire roof at one time.
So just as far as a perspective, as far as even the controls go, we do have a couple of small numbers here. You don't have them with you, but like Spring Hill Elementary, just to replace the controls in that building and get them over to a updated system, that would cost approximately $420,000, and Cloden Elementary controls would cost $288,000, and that's just in controls and software. And what happens is a lot of these companies, when they put these, like Mr. Hardesty was addressing about the bidding things out, they put in their own system that is proprietary, and when something happens, you have to have them fix the system, or the software goes out of date. Computers, we're at the place now where we've got computers that are running on very, very old operating systems that cannot be, and if that computer goes down, we're in a situation. But good thing we have really, really good technology people that
So
can
if
make
you
them
could
work.
imagine if we built a school, 20 years ago, and it's running off of an operating system from a laptop computer sitting in a room at that school that's not connected to the internet, the only way to access that is actually go there and plug into it. And it's running off of a system that's 3-4 formats out that not supported anymore. So he's right. Mr. Jackson somehow makes them work. I don't know how, but sometimes it's difficult. You've got to send someone there, and there's just no way to remote into some of them.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
All right, well, I'm gonna, any more questions about HVAC or controls? All right, I'm gonna go on to roofing project. Yes, sir. Thank you, Drew.
But HVAC isn't like roofing. You can't really do it in parts, can you, with the,
Depends on how the system's made. If you have rooftop units, you can replace a certain few of those at a time. If you have for example, 4-pipe system, no, you can't piecemeal that, but it depends on the system.
And it depends on if they've been renovated, if you had an addition to a school and it's not on a boiler, you can.
Right.
Kind of
Typically, if you'll notice, and you go to some of our buildings that have been around a while, you'll see the additions because it's a different level. The roof's a little bit higher, a little bit lower. There's a plaque there, and for example, the current ONA has like 4 or 5 plaques in it. So all of those are different. The main building still operates in the old area that used to be, we're still using a gas furnace in the old coal fire furnace. And the custodian's office is actually where the coal dump was. They're still using that system in the old building because it was built in the late 30s. And so, so each one of those areas you could replace separately if you had to do it that way. So it really depends on the system the school has.
So what you have in front of you, we're talking about roofing, and a vendor's kind of helped us out a little bit as far as getting us some estimates, just as they did with the HVAC, a different company did with HVAC. This one is called.
So, Mr. Boggs, I want to interrupt you for
Sure.
just a moment. A great example of what I was talking about was on page 1 of that format, or that handout. You can see Huntington High School from the aerial shot, and you can see all the different levels of Huntington High School and the different rooftop units that are there. And so it's something that, this is a roofing project, but if needed to, we could break some of that out in sections as well for HVAC.
And our techs, and the good thing is our techs know the problem areas of different parts of the building that have those issues. So what you're looking at right here on this sheet, this is an aerial view of Huntington High School. And what Garland does is they come in, they do aerial photos, they do measurements, they can give you an estimate. They actually went up to, you're going to see 3 examples on here. This first one's Huntington High, then you're going to see Central City, and then Milton Pre-K. By talking to our grounds department, these are where we have the majority of our leaks in the district, roof issues. at where we're having those. So what they do is they go in, they use drones, different things, and they take, they do aerials and they do measurements, and then they go up and inspect these roofs of where problem areas, where problems area are. They take pictures of those things, and then they give us, and then they assess how good or bad, or if we're in danger of needing to replace that roof. And so it's kind of color-coded for us. The red those are high-priority areas. They are going to need to be replaced within 1 to 2 years. So that's your red, and I think it's 3 to 6 in the yellow area, and green means you're in good shape right now. And you can tell by this picture, the aerial on the left compared to the graphic on the right is the same building imprint on there, and you can see where part of that roof has been replaced, and it has the ballast stone or the gravel on top on the parts on the left. And a lot of that is your gymnasium area, auditorium area, and different things that you're looking at on the left-hand side. Then you got more of your academic wing. That roof has been replaced here recently. So what they are doing is they give you, so for example, Section 3, do you all see this? I'm going to kind of point to this, but do you see Section 3, this red area right here on the right? You can see where that is over here on the left. If you go up to the top, and they've kind of ranked these in priority level, and it says to replace that section right there, it would cost, with a 2-ply, Mr. Hartsey, how many year, is that a 30? I don't.
So the 2-ply, I believe, was a 25-year. A single ply was 10.
Okay, yeah, I believe that's correct. So if you did the 2-ply, it would cost approximately $1.7 million just to do that Section 3, which is really the main quarter between the main office all the way down to the gym over that area. So they're saying those sections are in the worst shape. And what was really reassuring from this is I was able to get this last year, and then I went to Johnny, our buildings and grounds manager, and or coordinator, and he said, this is where we're having the problems. So we know they were accurate in the information that they were giving us. They also do thermal scans, different things like that. Now, and then you've got your yellow, which is not in need of being replaced right now, and then, of course, the green. But they also do offer some other options that you can do as far as putting fluid restoration or liquid over it to kind of seal that off to extend the life of that roof. It's kind of a white fluid that goes on, they paint it on, and then they reseal the joints and everything. So that can also extend, and some roofs can take that and some cannot. So this is Huntington High School, but if you're... Go ahead.
I'm sorry, a roof that has the ballast on there, the gravel on there, they can't do that because it's got the gravel on top of it. That's what's actually holding the roof down, the membrane down. And so to remove that and put a coating on it, it wouldn't stay on the roof. So they can't use it there. But in the future, they would be able to do that for the other portions because it's not like that. It's been replaced recently. It doesn't need it now, though.
Are the new schools flat roofs?
Mostly, not completely, but mostly. We have a peak in a portion of the building at Culloden. We have a peak in a portion of the building at Milton, and I believe the rest of them have been flat. There might be a
pre-K is maybe over the gym.
Meadows may have a not flat area as well. Yeah. So, but most of the buildings, most all of them are flat.
But you probably have to, don't you, to put the units on top and stuff like that?
Right. Correct. Yes.
And the other thing with this is when you've got the gravel, or they call it ballast on there, and Garland's point this out, and this is totally accurate, that stone starts to break down. Well, we have to be, because of the HVAC, we have to be on the roof so much. We're walking around on these roofs all the time, and when you walk across this gravel, even though we've got little kind of pavers to kind of distribute the weight a little bit, you're kind of compounding the issue every time, but we have to go up and replace that. And this is one of those things, when a roof leaks, we have to call somebody, we have to fix it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question about the green section and how they would determine that there's 11 years difference between when these need to be serviced.
And that's based on their assessment of actually crawling up on the roof and using drones to inspect it. And I've got the full report. You're welcome to look at it. And it breaks out and shows you, let me kind of go, do you see the picture at the bottom right of this? Go back one in your presentation. You're going to see a picture of what they actually do, so you know that they're not just saying that there's an issue there. They crawl up and they take pictures and they mark it with chalk to show you issues that they're having with the roof. So you all are
thermal
welcome.
scans he talked about also, when they do a thermal scan, it shows the temperature on the roof, and it can show you where there's water, that intrusion that's taken place. And so it's just a lot of information they give us. They also look at when the roof was originally put on and how it's been maintained over the years to determine their estimation of when it would need to be done. They also do that with a thought process that most people can't address an entire roof at one time either. And so they understand that, and they work with governmental agencies and schools, this company does, to plan for that and help with that.
So I gave Mr. Abbas just a full report. I can pass it around if you want to look at it, that has a lot more pictures. But this is the type of report that gives you the estimates for this. So but what we're wanting to do is have them come up with help us, because I'm not a roofing expert, but come up with a long-term plan to really address these to where we can budget roofing and prioritize these things moving forward. So they would do this for all of our facilities, and we know Davis Creek is not going to be an issue. It's a brand-new building. But they would compile a large report for us and then be able to kind of assist us with that. The other thing that's very important is, you know, there's turnover in all positions, whether it be at the central office, schools, different things like that. Say, I'm in this position right now, and I know that we did a roof. Well, 10 years from now, I may not be in this position, and there may be someone else. They don't realize that a roof was replaced. We're not going to have Johnny Ryder here forever. He knows he really does know everything. You can ask him, when was that replaced? Oh, that was back when, he can tell you.
Yeah.
He can rattle it off. But he's not going to be here forever, so what they can do is they compile it all into a central location, and then if we call them and say, there's a roof leak over here, they can say, instead of us spending the money and $5,000 to go fix that, they can say, oh, no, wait, this is under warranty. And then they turn it in under warranty to be able to go address that and fix it. So it's kind of quality control as well, and just making sure that you're maximizing your warranty. So the first one you see on here is Huntington High School. Then we go on to Central City. And I'm going to give you a real-life example, and this was done about May of last year, and they just updated the numbers for us yesterday. But this one is Central City. But you go to the last page to Milton Pre-K, third page that you see on here. So, and I've got it up on the screen as well. So section 1 down here in the red, they were telling us last year that this is in need to be replaced.
I wonder what that.
That was 100% accurate, because when the ice and snow melted after being on top of the roof for a month, it was like a waterfall opened up in that part of the building. And we had to put it out to bid and get that fixed immediately. The rain that we had, and so section 1 has been replaced. Section 2 on here, that was their number 2 priority on this list. The rain that we had over the weekend, the roof decided to open up, and that is in need of being replaced. So it is, and it's got the ballast, it's got the stone on it, so those are, I have to say, what they have given us has been very, very accurate to what the priorities are. And and I do go look on these roofs, and so does Johnny and the maintenance crew and Mr. Webb to verify these things. So again, I think it down with HVAC and this, just being very cognizant of how important maintaining our current facilities that we do have for the long term.
So there are just a couple of things there, and I know that in red, they have that as a high priority, and they do need replaced. However, we don't just leave them in the current state they're in. When we have a leak, we address it. When we have water intrusion, we stop it. So instead of 1 year or possibly 2, while we know we need to address it, it's not something that we have to do right now if we don't have the funding to do that. So we're also looking at some other avenues that might be able to be there. I know last meeting, our last budget, we talked about solar panels and the ground mount from ESG and that quote that we received. I spoke with a gentleman with a company this week and reached out last week, talked to him this week, and Mr. Boggs and I will be meeting with him this coming Monday because they just finished a project in Calhoun County where they covered the 3 schools that Calhoun County has. They put a membrane over the roof, a 25-year warranty membrane, and then they placed the solar panels on top of the roof. The county doesn't pay for the solar panels. You pay for the membrane installation, which is a fraction of the cost of a new roof. They did all 3 for about $910,000. I don't know how large the schools are, but they also have solar panels there that they don't own. So the roof's warranted for 25 years. The solar panels are 25 years. And they are able to purchase their power from the company that installed them at a 3 to 4% discount on their energy bill. So he said they're seeing a real savings, that they get about 50% of the power from the solar panels for their high school, about 50% from the power company. And in the elementary school, they're getting about 70% from the solar panels and the other 30 from the local company. So we're going to explore that a little bit further. I don't have numbers for you yet, but we're working towards that as well. Just as I don't know that they can put a membrane over a ballast roof, but we won't know till we talk to them.
Now, you said the solar panels have a 25-year life too, but that does not impact the school system.
No, we wouldn't be paying for them at all.
You're right. That's just the solar company knows that
Correct.
they should be able to get 25 years out of
Correct.
their investment there.
Yes. And the membrane they put on the roof is white, and I'm sure that's to help with light and the reflective light. So, you know, for us, that's what we're going to explore to see if there's a way that we can impact some of the roofs we have at a much more manageable cost and try to save some money in the short term as well through the process. So as we explore that, I'll bring that to the board as well and share that with you.
So any other questions about the roofing? Go on to the last page here. I think, Drew, do you care to pass out our last one? I appreciate you helping me out tonight. Again, I would have put this in a binder. It's just almost easier to pass them out one at a time because you've got too many papers flying around. So what Drew is passing out for us right now is the CEFP projects that are not started. These are ones that are currently on the CEFP. And I did take, this looks a little different than the last time because you had ones that were complete. I thought there was no need to really, we already know those are done. But these are the ones that were remaining on the CEFP and the budgeted cost. Again, you do see numbers on there like HVAC replacement. Again, this was 5 years ago. That number has tripled, or more than doubled now. But I kind of have got 3 questions up here for you. And before I get to those 3 questions, you've got the front page and then the back page. There's some blank spaces down there. And if you as a board decide that you want to add projects, there's some blank spaces that you can kind of make notes on there and anything, if any projects you want to add. But what we've got is 3 questions up here. So the first one is, how are the current projects ranked? Well, you're looking at how they are currently ranked, the way things stand today, and what's been submitted to the West Virginia, or the School Building Authority, West Virginia Department of Ed. The next question is, would you like to add any new projects? If so, we've got some blank space. And then would you like to reprioritize any of those, would you want to reprioritize any of those things and move things up, down, based on need, want, based on feedback and everything? So I'm going to let you just take a look at this right now, and then we'll kind of go through and answer some of those questions.
Where are we with that emergency road for Huntington High School? What's the status of that? It's a priority right now as far as ranked on this, but other than getting an estimate on it and initial renderings, that as far as we've went, because that's a significant investment. So there's nothing been budgeted for that at this point. Okay.
What are the deferred upgrades?
Deferred upgrades, I actually talked to Mr. McMillan about that, and that is that right now they're okay. It will need to be addressed, but it can be deferred and moved down the road kind of as needed.
They're just not specified, huh? So the solar company, if the roof then starts leaking with that fiber on it, that, what you call it? Membrane, the membrane on it, then who's responsible?
I asked, so I'm talking to the superintendent of Calhoun County too, to get an idea of how it's working. And he said they haven't had a roof leak yet, but according to the warranty, the company installed the roof and they can fix it. I didn't have my mic on, I apologize. But I asked the gentleman from the solar company, and he reiterated the exact same thing, that it is warranted, and if there's a leak, we call them, they come and take care of it. If there's a problem with the roof overall that we would have to address, say it's a structural problem or an HVAC issue on top of the roof that we have to do, then we would be responsible for that portion. If it's something that the membrane fails and they have to replace it, then the company would remove the solar panels at their cost. The membrane would be replaced, and then they would reinstall the solar panels.
So now, do they do something like this, a complete inspection of the roof to make sure that they can just?
Oh, they would have to. And like I say, I don't know if they can do that with a ballast roof or not, but I don't know yet. We'll be meeting Monday. They would have to assess the roof, I would think, but, yes, we just haven't met with them yet. He sent me aerial shots of their schools in Calhoun County.
And what was the age of their 3 schools?
He didn't share that with me as well. I told him that Mr. Boggs and I may come and look at their schools one day, just to get an idea of what they look like, how they did it, how it was assembled or put on there. Just kind of curious, how it works.
I used to work in that, work with that. It was one of the counties I worked with. So they only have 3 schools.
You can go see your friend.
Yeah, 3 schools. I think probably one of our middle schools has about more students than their whole county.
As I look at this, the CEFP list, I know at the top is the Huntington High Emergency Access Road. And I know there's a lot of interest in people wanting to do something along those lines. I don't know how it comes ahead of these HVAC replacements that, I mean, if the HVAC is failing, we've got to replace, it's got to be done, I would think, before we would be able to to do the access road. Also, yeah, I know we previously, and trying to think back, looked at some options on how the access road could be done. I would like us to maybe keep looking at, maybe we've looked at it as much as we can about alternative routes or alternatives that would be less expensive, or finding alternative funding. That maybe there's something out there that would help us fund that, although it's not looking good right now.
Well, I think it's worth noting also that you've mentioned the access road to Huntington High School. That wasn't even on the list for the LSICs this year. I just a cursory glance at it, I think they had, and I'd read it earlier, but I think they had 13 projects on there that they had listed, and that wasn't one of them.
Other than that, I would say I don't know, pretty good. I mean, the shared football space may need to be moved up above the green space.
Now, we can kind of rank it as far as moderate.
I mean, they're both
moderate high.
Right, they're both
maybe.
moderate, but I don't know if I'm looking at my list. But won't the information that we get back on the HVAC timeframe it could help guide this?
It will, and those really don't need to be ranked right now. The only reason we have those in front of you is just to let you know what projects are on that list that we are supposed to be saving for currently, to see if there's anything that you would want to move to the forefront that we address sooner rather than later. So that's not an urgency to re-rank or any of those right now, but to move forward and apply for funding. For example, I think the second item on there is the Salt Rock HVAC listed as high need. In order for us to go to the school building authority, it needs to be a high need on our CEFP that we have not addressed yet.
So I asked earlier about how much the Milton Middle School football cost was, and now I remember this had a cost of $2,250,000. Do we know if that was based on using our own land, or was that based on trying to purchase land and then construct it?
If I remember correctly, and I do not want to shoot from the hip here. That was just the thing from earlier. But that project was actually divided into several projects overall, the Milton Middle School complex, if I'm remembering correctly, and we'll get that for you. But I think they had the bleachers as one, the press box as one, concession stand and changing rooms as one. Of course, the field was done first.
Yeah, the field and bleachers.
And the bleachers.
Yeah.
And so I don't think we took all of that project and did it at one time. I think they just took the portion they had the funding for.
Right.
Drew said he has all that on a sheet in his office, and I also have the master, I don't want to say the master plan that has all the phases, the drawings for that as well, too.
I just think it would give us some idea of what it would cost to put in a football field. If we did, I didn't know if this amount was based on putting it at the Meadows site, or if this was based on having to acquire land.
That was based on us having that land on there because we already had the school built. Yes.
Gotcha.
Bill wanted to put the new elementary.
Oh, right there.
It goes way back there, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
So is it, just for my note, I know you're not really making it, but do you all believe that moving, is that something you might consider is making that kind of a moderate high for the shared football facility? Okay.
Yeah, I would.
Now,
too.
just refresh my memory, what, what is the green space?
The green space, if you go to Huntington East Middle School and the little roundabout that they have, you know what I'm talking about? Right over the hill there's weeds, there's some trees, but there's a drop of about 10 feet or so down to a fill area. That fill area came from years ago, they just dumped fill in there.
Along Norway?
Pardon?
Is it the area along Norway you're talking about?
Yes, yeah, well, there's actually a ravine between that space and Norway, but it's between the school and Norway. And so we actually own a piece of property there now that's adjacent to the school. And so the plan was to put some kind of stairs or ramp in there to make it accessible, but also build it up and make it as level as we could to turn it into a green space.
Mr. Jackson's put a aerial view of this up here so you can see exactly what we're talking about. It's not very green right now in that picture.
It's the brown portion right there.
Make that brown spot green.
And that looks like a big area. However, if you go down, now it is actually green, it's kind of overgrown right now. We've brush hogged it a few times. That area is not as big as it looks, and what you see there is where, right after they probably dumped some of that stuff in there, and that is all not flat. So there's probably only about a third of that that is flat right now.
Which is the need for the topsoil to come in and level it out and plant some grass in there. And I think the original plan was to turf that, but there's a lot of fill in there.
And the idea was to have a place for kids to, on their break, have a.
Be
place in
outside.
Nature.
Yes,
hang out.
yes.
Get outside there.
So at the back of that parking lot, you see they've kind of converted that really to where they've got basketball hoops right now.
The pumpkin drop area.
Yeah, that is. That's where they were doing that
Exactly
with
where it
the crane in that area.
That's it.
So,
Get my bearings there.
yeah. So it's not a big area. I know the school has really expressed maybe the possibility of doing in that green space area, doing a practice field. I went down and measured it. It's really not any more than about 30 yards long. So you're really not,
You can't get a half of it.
Barnett did that a few years ago,
yeah,
and determined the same thing.
it's not very big.
It's not feasible.
Yeah.
And he brought dirt in and tried to fix that little practice area there on the side where the gym is.
And I did take, the geotech, Conti, one of the geotechnical engineers down there, and really kind of looking at it. And that's where you get that big number, like if that's $750,000, that's if you were to do geotechnical engineering, you bring in additional dirt, you use a sheep's foot roller and roll it in and do everything to spec to make sure, because if you're going to invest in something like artificial turf, assuming that it's going to be used a lot and be a muddy area, you don't want it to slip and go over the hill. So, and then you may have to have a fence in that area because it just kind of drops off into a ravine.
Frank did what you just described. They brought in dirt, and you know what happened? The dirt didn't pass somebody's inspection, and they had to remove it.
Oh,
Yeah. That's some bad dirt.
That's why we would have Conti, our geotechnical engineer. He is the soil expert.
But they did bring a practice field ahead of a green space on their requests. So I would say it would be moved higher. Yeah.
Now what we could do, assuming that we're not going to put any turf in, and we do have some of that dirt that is over at Milton Elementary, we could bring it in and dress it up and make it a lot nicer where it is a little bit of a space without.
Right. I think what he was talking about is on
Oh,
the
yeah.
LSIC form, they
Football
rank,
field?
they rank the practice field ahead of the green
Yeah.
space as well.
And with that, it's actually two schools, not
Correct.
one.
Right.
But either way, they're having to bus, just being the location of where they're at, they're having to bus students, or actually at Huntington Middle, they walk, correct? Do they bus them over there? Okay. Over to, the A.D. Lewis, yeah. So they're having to bus them anyway. It's going to be a little longer if we would do that for Huntington Middle. But our fields at the high schools are used all the time, all year long. So anything, Mr. Hardesty, is there anything else I need to add, or?
No, Mr. Boggs, I thank you for the presentation and all the work into it. And I know board members, it's a lot. We just need to get an idea of what to put on the agenda or the budget as we're moving forward and try to tackle on projects. So again, if you analyze these and look at them, you have further questions, or you feel like it needs to be something we address, just reach out to me, and I'll even put another I can add a discussion item. Well, I can't for the 15th because we'll be posting that one tonight. If power comes back on, it'll be at 12:01. Otherwise, it'll be in the morning sometime when I get here. But not power, but internet. But at a future meeting, we might, as I said earlier, have to delay presenting the budget and maybe have a special meeting in May to do that. So we can do that for you. We'll do our best to have that ready for the May 6th meeting. But we just want to make sure we're thorough enough to address the needs that the board like for us to address.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Boggs, for leaving our heads spinning.
I have one question. Where's this practice field again? I'm sure y'all mentioned it.
At the New Meadows. The idea was to put it up at the New Meadows site.
There is space at the top of the Meadows Hill. Have you been up there recently? So when you get up to the top, the school's built on the right, and it stays along the hillside on the right. So they're using a little over half the property, but on the left, there would be room to put something like that. Again, we'd have to make sure we do it and have it designed in a way that would fit on the land, and there it comes. My goodness, he is quick.
So, yeah,
it's
zoom
old.
in there a little bit.
Well, that's an old picture because you don't see the Meadows building.
School sits back up.
I thought it was just a very open floor plan.
Yeah, where it's right there.
So where he's at is where the school is. The other side is where we'd be able to put something.
Still room for parking, plenty of parking.
Yes.
That is a beautiful piece of property, actually.
And if it could be designated as a practice facility, you wouldn't have to have a regulation size field. You can have like 30 to 30.
Well, and you wouldn't need a press box and all that, would you?
No, you wouldn't need any of that. That's right.
So where do they play their
I
games?
was saying, unless they're,
They play at the high school.
high school.
The high school fields.
Yeah, Paper Seals is very cooperative.
Yeah, that actually works out really well for them. They actually like doing the Milton and Barbersville prefer to play at their own house. Huntington Middle and Huntington East, obviously they didn't have a choice because they had no other place to play. But I know that they really enjoy playing up the high school, and the
Mr.
coach
Skelton-
enjoys it.
Mr. Seals at Huntington High School is really works well with them though. Yes, he is. They really do a nice job with it.
okay. I don't believe we have any delegations signed up to speak today. We move on to board member comments. Did anybody have any follow-up comments after that discussion?
Thank you for your work
Oh,
and
yeah.
the list you prepared, and the folks and Mr. Ball have tremendous amount of work that all of you have been doing. Much appreciated.
Much appreciated.
Yeah. I would just say that it's obviously, from all the information that we've looked at today, it's important that we get on a track to prepare for these things that are coming up and to make sure that we're, running our budget in a manner that we're able to not continually use our carryover funds and are able actually even to save, because we've got, a lot of projects that we've looked at here today that we need to be trying to operate a little below our means so that we can, save back money to prepare for that as well. And if there's nothing else, I'll just take a motion for adjournment. We have the motion by Mr. Abess, seconded by Ms. Smalley. All in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Of course not. Not even you. We're opposed. You at 5:58. She voted.